have been left traumatized by the situation. Mr. Mamburu insists that the workers were held against their will by a rival grouping, the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union. But this labour union has said the action by the workers was a staged sit-in following a disagreement between the two unions over the automatic enrolment of miners into the National Union of Mine Workers.
A group of farmers in southern India protesting against power cuts have startled officials by producing a crocodile to vent their anger. Video of villagers offloading the reptile, tied with ropes at both ends, from a lorry in Karnataka state has been widely circulated online. A farmer said they wanted to highlight the dangers they face from both crocodiles and snakes at night while waiting for electricity to switch on their water pumps. BBC News.
Welcome to the documentary from the BBC World Service. I'm Namulanta Kombo, and this is Other People's Children.
Other People's Children.
Imagine going away to another country.
As I walk away, I could hear my children cry.
Because you have a child and you need to support them.
It is not my intention to leave them, but what do I do?
And imagine that when you get there, you get a job as a nanny.
You wash them, you give them food, you play with them.
So you're spending all your time with children.
I treat them as my own children. I give them unconditional love.
But not your own.
What about mine? How are mine? How are mine?
And when you're taking care of other people's children, who's taking care of yours?
No mother always wanted to leave their children behind.
I'm Namulanta Kombo, and you might have heard my podcast, Dear Daughter, where I talk to people who've written letters to their daughters or to other people's daughters, or sometimes to daughters who don't exist. You can catch it wherever you get your podcasts, and we're hoping we'll have news soon about our third season. But back in our first season, one of the letters we heard came from Raquel from the Philippines.
My dear Eliza,
she came on the show with her daughter Eliza.
Painful it was to live in.
It just made me thankful and at the same time sad.
To talk about the fact that Raquel had been away for almost Eliza's entire childhood, working as a nanny in Canada.
Keep your light shine and soar like an eagle. Much love, Mama.
They'd made things work, but I've thought about them often. As a mother myself, I feel like this must be an incredibly hard decision to make, with an impact on the entire family. And there are millions of people doing this. According to the International Labour Organization, 70 million women are currently migrant workers, about 40% of the total. Now, not all of them will have children of their own, but for many, the reason they're moving in the first place is to make money to support their kids.
I left her when she was 10 months old. There's no choice for me.
I'm single mom. Yeah, their father left me. He abandoned me there with kids.
I just couldn't watch them hungry, I don't want a life like that for my children.
It's my dreams already to go abroad, to get a better life.
I shed tears sometimes. They also cry, Mom, when are you coming back? I tell them, no, I'm just looking for the money to buy for you the clothes and to get for you food.
And what's complicated for female migrants is that the jobs that they get are more likely to be in care, nursing, elder care, or domestic labor, housekeepers, nannies, jobs that might be stereotypically called women's work.
How can our employers be concentrating working in their office without us?
How could they work if there is no domestic workers, doing the things in the house, the washing, the cooking, the looking after the children?
It's work that needs to be done for families and societies to function. When women with children have jobs outside the home, someone else needs to come and take care of their kids. I have a nanny here in Kenya. She steps in when I need to work or if I just need a moment to myself. But when women do this work in other countries and for other families, what does that mean for their own family? Academics call this the global care chain.
My employer, she could do her work properly. I think I could also say that I could do my work properly because I know my children are also being loved of my sister. Yeah, 3 women, my sister, me, and my employer.
These women are a backbone of two economies. They send money home to support their own economy and also support the economy of the country they work in by enabling other parents to work.
Without them, we can't do something, and without us, they can't do something. So we are just helping each other.
But we don't hear their voices a lot. They're often busy, for one thing, working and running their families back home.
I am talking to them every day. Sometimes I am the one waking them up, ringing their phones. Physically, I'm away, but emotionally and mentally, I'm there.
And they're women working in people's homes who don't always speak the same language as the country they're in. This is an emotionally complex dynamic. It's difficult to talk about for the people involved, and maybe something that employers don't want to think about too hard. So I wanted to make a space for some of these women to tell their own stories, to tell us what their world is like, the sacrifices they make, and their hopes for their families. In this documentary, I'll speak to just a few women who've been in this position, about why they do this, about what it's been like for them, about what it's meant for their families. I'll also speak to some of the family members who stayed behind.
It's really hard. I'm taking care of Marisa's children, and I'm also taking care of my children too. But I did it for love.
These are complicated choices which can have big and lasting impacts. Everybody's trying to make the best decision for themselves and their families.
Is it a bad decision to go abroad and work for your kids? Because your children sometimes won't understand that you did that for them.
At first, it was hard to find people who were happy to talk about this because it's such a difficult subject. But once people opened up, they really wanted to talk. We've spoken to lots of people in different circumstances, and just to warn you, there was a lot of crying. So, brace yourself.
There's one time that we really don't have any single rice to cook for them. I want a better future for them.
I have no words to explain how I felt. Even now I have no words to explain it. It brings tears to my eyes.
Your birthdays, holiday season, yung like Christmas, Mother's Day.
But it's also about hope, and agency, and people making choices that they hope will make a better future for their children.
It is our choice to be away because that's the only option that we can see, for them to have a better life.
It's for them to have a brighter future.
We managed to give them a good life and a good future. I think motherhood really never ends, yeah.
Let's start in London, in a top-floor flat overlooking the railway line in the west of the city. Our producer Lucy has gone to meet Phoebe and Syria at their home. Syria isn't her real name.
So tell me what's going on.
So this is a box to be sent for my children back home.
These boxes are a fixture in the homes of Filipino migrants.
Corned beef.
It's a flat rate to send a box, whatever the weight is. From the UK, it's £45, which is about $56 US.
What's this?
So you can fill it up with whatever you want and send it back to your loved ones back home.
Washing up liquid. Washing dishes.
Phoebe and Syria are friends as well as housemates.
I just buy stuff.
They won't, actually, they don't like it anymore.
And
the house is full of stuff. And they said, stop sending.
No, they don't say stop sending. That's why I'm still doing this, because
They're both originally from remote parts of the Philippines, and they both came to London as domestic workers. Syria by way of Taiwan and Hong Kong, and Phoebe after she escaped from a family she'd been working for in the Middle East, who brought her to the UK. They're a part of the Filipina Domestic Workers Association, and they've both spent decades looking after other people's families.
I'm just wondering, that first moment when you realize, or how did you come to the realization that you needed to leave the Philippines if you wanted to make things work for your family and for your kids?
yeah, for me, I clearly remember because my daughter is just 1 year old. And then, because, sorry.
Okay, so I'll go ahead. Yeah, so I decided to leave my family behind. My kids were quite young then. My youngest was only 1 year and 8 months. I have to decide to leave them because there is no work for us in the Philippines. And I thought, because back home, people think that going abroad will make your family lives better. You can support them.
Phoebe first left the Philippines in 2001. She was a single parent with 4 children.
When I left, my children did not know that I was going to Saudi Arabia. I just don't want them to see me leaving. I just don't want, to say goodbye to them because, of course, it will be very emotional and maybe I'll change my mind. So I decided to leave in the middle of the night whilst they were sleeping. So I just kissed them and said goodbye. And then when they woke up, they knew that I wasn't around anymore.
You're listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service. I'm Namulanta Kombo, and this is Other People's Children. Phoebe and Syria are part of a massive wave of migrants from the Philippines, dating back to the 1970s, when the Marcos dictatorship encouraged Filipinos to work abroad and send money home. There are nearly 2 million overseas Filipino workers. 60% of them are women, and 2/3 of those are domestic workers. The Philippine Central Bank says they sent home more than $36 billion in 2022, nearly 10% of the country's GDP, an all-time high. Filipino domestic workers can be found all over the world, mainly in the Middle East and Asia. Ruby Rose is a nanny in London.
I'm at work. I let the kids watching TV so that I can have this interview.
She's been working as a nanny since 2004.
I want to help my parents to look after my siblings as well, because we are 6 in the family and I'm the eldest. My father always come home only with 500 pesos every week. So it's not enough for our 6.
500 pesos in 2004 was only about $10 at the time.
Back home in the Philippines, we look after our siblings. We are family oriented.
So did you have a lot of responsibility from quite an early age?
Yeah, I have. It looked like I carry all the cross.
Though domestic workers often don't make a lot of money by the standards of the country they're in, their wages can support a whole extended family back home.
It's my dreams already to go abroad, to get a better life. I already had a plan that way before I get pregnant with my first child. But when I noticed that I was pregnant, I canceled it. And then every time I was planning to go, I get pregnant again.
When she left, her daughters were aged 2.5 and 11 months. Ruby Rose has worked in a few different households. At the moment, she's working for a family with 2 boys aged 5 and 10.
They are so naughty. Keep jumping on me playing. They think like I'm 10 years old. Yeah, they treat me like I'm their playmate. They like, Auntie Ruby, let's play. So I have to tickle them, play football with them, even if I'm like catching out my breath, riding a bike with them. But I never do that with my child.
The Philippines isn't the only place that women migrate from to find work. Saji is from Sri Lanka. She left for Dubai 15 years ago to find work during a financial crisis.
My mother did the same thing. When I was very young, like 1 year old, she went to Lebanon and started work there as a maid. And she was there for 22 years. On and off, she came to Sri Lanka for her vacation. Sometimes she spent there 2 years. And I thought I will never leave my children, but unfortunately I had to do the same thing.
At first, Saji worked as a security officer, but she soon found a job which paid better, as a nanny. It meant spending all her time with her employer's children, which had its ups and downs.
Actually, all the children I have taken care of, they are very close to me. I know they are not mine, but it gives me, something to hold on, like something to carry on. What I was thinking, I was telling myself, no, you better take care of this child as yours, then the good karma will pay you off and your child will be safe. That's what I was telling myself.
There's something really intimate about taking care of children. Many of the people I spoke to said that their affection for the children they look after goes way beyond just work. Here's Syria again.
I treat them as my own children, honestly, because I give them unconditional love. I am with them all the time. I'm working 12 hours a day, so they're very close to me. It's just like they are my own children. The only problem is I am not the mother.
And watching a child's development builds a strong bond.
The eldest I can feel is he really loved me. I mean, it's not as a beyond nanny. I don't know if I'm just speculating. Because I'm really, as a nanny, you need to wash the bum and everything. And then one time he told me, when I was small, you wash my bum. When you grow old, I will wash yours as well.
Sometimes a nanny sees more of the child than the parents. Syria was the person who saw one of the children she looked after take his first steps.
Just suddenly, I told them, he's now walking! And then I sent a video. Look at him! And then he said, I'm jealous. Because I was not there.
She has all the videos of the children that she looks after in her telephone.
Yeah.
And, every move, events at school, she has all the videos.
I have all the piles of their drawings. Their dad says, throw it away. No, I will not throw this away. Because this is very precious. You cannot bring back times when they're practicing to write their letters and it's upside down. This is the thing that I want to do to my children, but I didn't do it,
Evelyn is in Kenya, and she looks after 3 children aged 3, 6, and 10.
I love my employers' kids. They usually wake up and the smiles on their faces make me feel good. Those kids really love me. Those are now my kids. They don't really know their mother that well. For instance, now that I'm off from work, they will call asking, how is Auntie Eva? When their mom buys cake and she doesn't give me a slice, the youngest child will carry the cake and tell their mom that she's taking it to Auntie Eva for her to share with everyone else.
I think when we look after other people's children, we truly love them. I treated them like my own.
This is Marissa. She's Filipina in London, like Phoebe in Syria. She says their job feels like a huge responsibility.
I think it's even really more difficult to look after other people's children because you're afraid that they will be hurt, or especially when they suddenly trip off. Even I remember that child was on bicycle. Oh my God, my heart would beat very fast because I'm scared. She would fall down, because it's not your child. It's really you had a heavy responsibility that to make sure that the child is safe.
Marissa worked as a nanny for nearly 30 years, and she runs a union, Voice of Domestic Workers, to protect domestic workers' rights. She's worked for many different families and seen a lot of different family dynamics.
I find that very frustrating, One day the child would cry, wanted her mother to take him to school, and the mother would rather take the dog to the park. I say, look, we exchange. I take the dog to the park and you take your child to school. I wanted so much to be able to do this to my own children, but I couldn't because they're far away. And your son is in front of you, you just need to take him to school and it will stop him from crying. Why couldn't you do that?
I met Lynette here in Kenya through the Domestic Workers Union, Kudeha. Nearly 2 million households employ a domestic worker in the capital city of Nairobi alone. Lynette says the comparison between her own family's situation and the family she looks after can be really hard.
Yeah, it is a challenge because when you take care of someone's child, they get everything they need. And for you, my own children cannot get now whatever my boss's children are getting. Yes. So sometimes my children, they will sleep hungry. And in my boss's house, there's a lot. There's plenty. Yes. Now that is what I see as a challenge.
Carol's Kenyan too, but she lives in the UK. Her previous employers brought her to London, and the voice of domestic workers helped her run away.
It is not easy. It is trauma to stay away, far away with your kids. That thing when you remember even you can't eat. I'm telling you the truth. It is very painful. Very painful. Because you eat, but when something came in your mind, I have eaten. What about my kid? Maybe they didn't even get food. Is how I will stop eating, because I'm thinking about my kids.
Felicia is from Romania and works in Italy.
I'm just waiting for the bus. The little girl I look after is about to come home from summer school.
Romania is another place where many women leave to find work. Save the Children Romania estimates that 500,000 Romanian children have at least one parent who has worked abroad. Italy is one of the most popular destinations. It's close by and the language is similar.
I didn't want to come to Italy, and I don't necessarily want to stay here, but I had to. I had no money and no work in Romania.
Felicia has been in Italy for 12 years now. When she left, her children were 4 and 8.
Somehow, I can't explain why. I always ended up taking care of children who were the same age as my children. It was extremely hard, especially during a holiday like Easter or Christmas, because I couldn't see my own children. During the holiday, I used to video call them and we would sing songs together.
Lots of people said that holidays are the hardest part. Here's Mimi, who's another member of the Voice of Domestic Workers.
I'm with them with other birthdays. I'm with them with during holiday season, during Christmas, Mother's Day. It's just like we're doing cakes for their mom because it's Mother's Day. It's just like I don't experience it all, and my children didn't experience it as well. That their mom isn't them. It's hard, very hard.
But it's difficult because they need the money she's sending back.
I want to have them the best life. That's why I'm here. Because if I will allow myself to be depressed because I didn't see them or I can't be with them in these special events, what will happen if I'll just go back home and it will be like I am with you, but you cannot have all these things, you cannot have this future. So it's like I'm just always saying that it's not only me who's sacrificing, it's also my children.
You're listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service. I'm Namilata Kombo, and this is Other People's Children. After the news, we'll go back home and look into the impact on the people left behind, on how families stay in touch, or don't.
This is the BBC World Service, where we explain the world around us.
From breaking the latest news
and in the early hours, these are our main stories,
to an in-depth exploration of the stories that matter.
The human condition over the last several hundred years has improved a lot. Humans are very innovative.
We're right on the front line of the world's stories.
We have a great deal to discuss about the events in the Middle East, how we got here, how events are unfolding on the ground.
On the picket line.
The strikes are not over in Hollywood.
And even the finishing line.
It's a pretty astonishing feat of athleticism.
We follow global events as they happen across every continent.
This
is Jenny.
Here in West Africa,
Live from the BBC World Service studios in central London.
So that you know what's going on in the world, and even out of this world.
To see for the first time this material that no other human has seen before.
Your source of information and analysis, news from the BBC World Service.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. Coming up after the news, part 2 of the documentary with me, Namulanta Kombo, Other People's Children. I'm talking to some of the millions of women around the world who work as nannies in other countries, while their own children stay at home. And in part 2, we hear from some of the people left behind. That's Other People's Children with me, Namulanta Kombo, after the news.
BBC News with Debbie Russ. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has warned that its shelters in Gaza are overwhelmed with people seeking refuge. Many are having to sleep in the streets as Israeli bombardments continue. The Hamas health authorities say more than 80 people were killed in overnight strikes. Israel says it will withhold visas from United Nations officials in retaliation for comments by the UN chief. Antonio Guterres has said the Hamas assault on southern Israel had not happened in a vacuum. The Israeli army has accused Iran of ordering recent attacks by armed groups that it backs in Lebanon, Iraq and Yemen. Meanwhile, state media in Syria say Israeli strikes in southern Syria have killed 8 soldiers. A hurricane described as potentially catastrophic has made landfall on Mexico's Pacific coast. There are fears of dangerous storm surges. More than 100 workers at a mine in South Africa have started resurfacing after spending 3 days underground. There are conflicting accounts of whether they were held down there against their will by members of a different union. Ukraine says a critical infrastructure facility in the west has been damaged in a Russian drone attack. Separately, the Russians targeted the city of Beryslav in Kherson, killing 1 civilian. Pakistan's state carrier PIA says it's cancelled over 300 flights in 10 days as it struggles to pay for jet fuel. There are fears it may face closure. The EU's Fundamental Rights Agency says almost half of people of African descent in the bloc face racism and discrimination in daily life. It says the situation has worsened since 2016. Japan's Supreme Court has ruled as unconstitutional a law that forces surgery on people wanting to change their legal gender. It was considering a petition filed by a transgender woman.
You're listening to the documentary on the BBC World Service. I'm Namulanta Kombo, and this is Other People's Children. In the first half, we heard from women all around the world who left their families and went to work as nannies, caring for other people's children while their own were far away. In the second part, we'll hear from some of those who stayed behind and find out how the situation affects families.
Hello, Mom. Good evening.
Hi, Desiree. How are you? Remember Ruby Rose, who we met playing with the kids she looks after in London? Desiree is her older daughter. It's so funny that you're calling me ma'am, because I feel very old. Is that just what happens where you're from? Is that how you would address someone else?
Yes. Someone that is older from us, we call it Mom.
Desiree still lives in the Philippines in a remote island province. And when we spoke, her connection was not very good.
Because there is a typhoon here.
Okay, a payphone.
A typhoon?
Oh. Ruby Rose went to work abroad when Desiree was 2.5 years old, and her sister was 11 months.
When first left us, her first job was in Singapore, and then she went to Denmark, then London last.
At first, Desiree and her younger sister lived with their father. Then, when their parents' relationship broke down, she moved in with her grandmother, and then an aunt, and now they live in a compound with some of Ruby Rose's siblings and their grandfather. What was that like for you?
It's very hard because I am confused of different people taking care of me and adapting different personalities that leads me to become independent.
They run a sari store, which is a little grocery.
Every day I wake up at 6:30 a.m., open our sari store.
Desiree has a lot of work to do around the house.
Washing our clothes, sweeping the floor, and cleaning the window, and after that, I will cook our lunch and also the rice because Filipino loves rice.
Here's her mother, Ruby Rose, in London.
Desiree, she's very intelligent because she said she is the mother and the father. At her young age, she is very responsible. I'm so proud of her. She looked after her younger sister. The young one is not listening. She always cries when she tell her off.
And she's also in school. She's in her 3rd year studying financial management.
After that, we will cook our rice for dinner. And then we will go to HR room and watch anime until we fall asleep.
There aren't a lot of hard statistics on how many children stay behind while their parents work abroad. It's estimated that about a quarter of children in the Philippines have at least one parent away for work, with more in China and parts of Southern Africa. The academic term is transnational parenthood. You're still a parent, even if you're not physically present. People have to make all kinds of decisions about who to leave their children with when they go abroad.
My mother-in-law,
my aunt,
my co-wife. I decide to take her in boarding school.
Their father and their aunties and grandparents.
They're just looking after themselves.
Staying with my mom,
my ex.
Here's Marissa, who we met in London talking about one employer who wanted to walk her dog rather than take her child to school.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 children, yeah. So it was my sister who looked after them.
From the beginning?
I left them with their father, but, long distance, the very first casualty, I think, of migration is family separation.
And so your sister stepped in?
Yeah, if that didn't happen, so I think I will be forced to return home.
Here's Mona. She's Marissa's sister.
It's really hard. I'm taking care of Marissa's children. I'm also taking care of my children too. Actually, Marissa's youngest was only 1 year old. And my son is also 1 year old. It's like I have twin babies. It's really hard, but I did it for love. I love my niece and nephews so much. That's why I raised them like my own children.
I think they love my sister, and I know that they love my sister more than me, yeah. They call my sister Mama as well. Sometimes when I was there, they will say Mama. We don't know who between us they're calling. I didn't mind of that too, because to me, the most important is I could see that my children are being loved, and to me, that's what matters most.
It's one thing when you're getting on with a person that's looking after your child, but that isn't always the case. Take Syria. That's not her real name, but her children moved several times, and she sometimes found it very hard to parent from a distance.
I always monitor the time for eating, and they're not eating the right food. 6 o'clock, they're drinking Coca-Cola and bread. So it's supposed to be it's dinner time. I say, why are you eating snack at 6 o'clock? It must be dinner time already, and 7 or 8, you must be in bed. Every time I call them, it's like that, but it's always not listening to me.
One thing that has made it much easier for families living apart is how much technology has improved to help them keep in touch. Phoebe remembers what things were like before when she was in Saudi Arabia 20 years ago.
We were only allowed phone calls 3 minutes in 1 month. During those time, mobile phones is only for rich people. And we are not allowed to have mobile phones in Saudi Arabia. So when I was calling my family, it is my employer who will dial the number, and she will sit beside me. So 3 minutes, time is up. So that's it. It's different nowadays. This time, since we have Messenger and Skype and Fiber and everything, it's constant communication.
I am talking to them every day, even if I don't sleep at night. Sometimes I am the one waking them up, ringing their phones. Physically, I'm away, but emotionally and mentally, I'm there.
Because what's the time difference between you and her in London?
7 hours or 5 hours.
Wow. Okay, so it's like a whole day, almost a whole day's difference.
Yes, ma'am.
And What type of things do you talk about? I mean, when someone is so far away, do you talk about everything, anything, or there's some days where you just you run out of things to say?
Yes, ma'am. Everything about chit-chat, about other people, like that. We talk about problems, and before we ended our call, the problem has been solved.
He's mama's boy. He can't survive without talking to me. I speak to him even every day or after 2 days.
We talk every day and we are very close. All the friends are my friends and I'm in contact with their teachers. I think only the bodies are not together, but the soul and the friendship, the relationships is there.
That's Saji in Dubai. But she's been away from Sri Lanka for 15 years now. Her younger daughter was just 10 months old when she left, but she's in her teens now.
I miss seeing them. You know, how they grow. My young one is so beautiful. Even I haven't seen her for the past 5 years. And even though her whole childhood, I wasn't there. It means I missed the way she grown up.
She doesn't know me. She knows me that I'm her mom, but she doesn't know when I'm happy, when I'm bad, because it's just all on the phone, on Messenger.
And even if you're talking on the phone every day, it's not a substitute for really seeing someone. Liz Mimi is a nanny in London. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm okay. Enjoying my holiday at the moment.
And she's just gone back to the Philippines to visit for the first time in 6 years.
Yeah, I thought we are constantly communicating through social media or internet. So I thought I still know them, but the fact is not that much.
What type of things have you been doing together, with your children?
Yeah,
Trying to connect again.
Yeah, when I came home, they're still all in school. So I only spent 1 whole month with them, preparing their breakfast, pack lunch for them for the school. After school, I take them somewhere or spend the dinner outside. And each day they are requested me to cook the food that they missed from me. It was nice. It's a great feeling.
What type of dishes are you particularly good at that they had missed?
I remember the very first day that I came here, the second day I cook for them. And it's just a very simple dish. It's just rice and fried fish. Yeah, but for them, I saw their faces and they even took a picture of it and posted on their stories on Facebook. And they were so very proud because their caption was, "Yay, after 6 years." And I just don't know the feeling. It was like, is this an insult or what?
So what are you going to do? Do you have a plan in terms of just bridging that gap?
I still don't know what to do. When I was still in England, I had a plan of, I'm going to sit with them, talk to them. I want us to have like an open forum, like an open conversation. But now that I'm here, it's still not happening.
Liz Mimi's been through a lot. A few years ago, she had to run away from a previous employer with the help of Marissa and the Voice of Domestic Workers Union.
I'm so happy when one of my children asked me, how did I survive when I ran away? That was such a great feeling. And I told them, but after that, it was like, oh, okay. It seems like none of them really taking it seriously. It's hard, especially now because of this technology. Most of their time, they only spend into their gadget.
You're listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service. I'm Namilanta Kombo, and this is Other People's Children. Phoebe remembers her first trip home vividly, even though it was more than 15 years ago. Her youngest daughter was 6, but when she left, she was 1.5 years old.
When they met me at the airport, she was like staring at me. She sat beside me in the car, so I gave her loads of Barbies and chocolates and things so that she will come near me. And when we arrive home, she runs straight to my sister and said, "Mommy, mommy, my mother is here, my mother is here, and she is pretty." And she said she is pretty. So, but she doesn't want me to leave her again. So she cried when she knew that I was again coming back to the UK. She was having tantrum. She said, "Why do you need to leave? I want you here, I want you here." So I said, I explained that I really need to go to work because they need money for their food, for their school, and for my parents' medications. And she said, "No, you can stay here. We can just, sell something in the market. We can survive here." She was only 6 by then. And when the next day was my flight, she locked herself inside the room and she was crying, and she said, "If I'm leaving, then she don't like me anymore."
Mario is Phoebe's son. He remembers comparing his family to other people's while he was younger and his mum was away.
You see family stuff going through at school, like PTAs, like Christmas parties, graduation ceremonies, stuff like that. And you see every one of your classmates' parents are there. Yours is not. And at that age, I kind of felt a little bit angry, a little bit bitter that why don't I have that experience? You know how kids are like, right? Like, they want to feel normal. And at that time, it didn't feel normal. I guess it wasn't until I grew up, that's when I figured out that, maybe this was the only option that she had left. Probably isn't a lot of opportunities for her at the time here in the Philippines.
In my teenage years, I hated my mom for taking care of other children. And we are here left behind. That is a very hard part of my teenage life.
Here's Desiree again. Lots of other people she knows are in a similar position. The place where they live is beautiful, but there isn't much work, so their parents go abroad.
Some other kids are become stubborn and they become a rebel child because they thought that their mother doesn't love them. And they didn't understand why they are left, and they didn't know how to analyze the situation. But as the time passed by, I know that they can understand why their parents did that to them. It's because for them to have a brighter future.
Felicia in Italy left her children in Romania with her mother. They're grown up now, but it's had a lasting effect on their relationship.
Sometimes they reproach me. They tell me, "You left. We were too young when you left." But then for the last year or two, we've had a good relationship. It's not quite like a parent-child relationship. It's more like a friendship.
But do you think they understand why you did what you did? Why you felt that this was the only way for you to support your family?
Yeah, they definitely understand now. Because I have a baby, a 1-year-old with my new partner. And both of my older children told me, "If you ever need money, you don't have to worry. We'll support you, so that you don't have to leave your baby behind and go away to work. We'll support you to look after our baby brother."
There's been a lot of research into the impact of this kind of family separation on the children who stay behind, how it affects their test scores or their mental or physical health. It doesn't have to be negative. It varies from family to family, and it depends on the social safety net around them. But many of the women we spoke to said they thought it left psychological scars.
I'm very, very lucky because they're very good children. They don't give me any heartaches. But my eldest is, he's an introvert. He doesn't want to share what in his mind, on his heart. He's very depressed. So I'm worried because nowadays in our place, plenty are really hitting suicide. So I talked to, now he resigned from his work. He is in my home, in our home, and he don't want to go out. And he will not share to me. it's like my heart is like bleeding.
Evelyn is in Nairobi, Kenya. She left her 4 children with her mother in her hometown, but things have gotten complicated with her youngest daughter.
Teenagers, young at least.
Once the kids become teenagers, you need to be very vigilant with them because they might stray. Case in point, my daughter, the one in Form 2, is not in school. That has really hurt me. My mom is old. She can't keep up with her whereabouts. As we speak, I have no idea where she is. If I was home with my children, my daughter wouldn't have run away. What can I do? If I leave this job and go back home, I'm a single mother. Where will I get school fees for my other child who's still in school?
Some families do reunite, although it isn't always straightforward. After 7 years apart, Phoebe decided she wanted to bring her children to join her in the UK. The law was different then.
So when I had my indefinite leave to remain, I said to myself that I should have my children here. But when we arrived here, it was a struggle because I don't know them. I don't know what food they liked, the kind of dress that they want to wear, things. So they said they don't like to stay here. But I insisted to them that it should be better for them to be here because, my goal is really, while working, I could look after them. Even if they're big, I could still do the things that I missed when they were young, because this is the only time that I can make up. I can cook for them. I can look after them when they are not well. I just want to make up the times that we missed. That's why I wanted them to stay with me until now. Even if they're already, they should live their own lives, but just wanted to make up the times that we were not together.
Phoebe's 3 daughters are all in the UK now, but her son Mario didn't want to come.
I think I was maybe 15, and at the time I didn't really, actually up until now, I didn't really want to go. In my mind, going to a different country is much like staying with someone else's house. Like, even when they say, feel at home, because it's not yours, it's not your home.
And things have changed in the Philippines. Mario works in digital marketing, and technology means he can do that from anywhere.
I'm currently working for a US-based company. I've worked with companies all over the globe. And, I did that without even leaving my house. I'm able to get what I need, provide for my family comfortably, live a comfortable life by staying here.
Mario's a father himself now. He has 2 girls. And how has parenting your daughters been impacted by how you grew up?
Actually, I think what made it different is that it made me a little bit clingy, for lack of a better word. I can actually barely sleep if my kids are not in the house. I always want to have my kids around me.
Marissa brought all 3 of her children to be with her in the UK as well.
I told them that when you come to London, there will be no one to cook for you, to clean your dirt. There will be no Mama Mona, my sister name, that will feed you, spoon feed you. Yeah, so they really upset. Yeah, I could say they're really upset and they really hate me for that. I think it took them really long time before they could adjust to the life here in the UK.
But the family have settled in the UK, and now Marissa's got 4 grandchildren.
I could be really proud, as a mother. I watch how when they build their own family, each of them, and have their own children. And now I look after my grandchildren when they go to work. But also I know that my grandchildren are quite spoiled to me because maybe I still have the guilt that I was never been there for my children. And now I have this opportunity. I could watch my grandchildren grow and look after them at the same time while giving my children opportunity to build their careers to what they want to achieve in life.
So, this takes us back to the idea of a care chain. Someone needs to look after children so parents can work. Marissa had an employer who she would discuss this with.
My employer and I would talk about motherhood. She would ask me about my children. Her job is really not easy. She's a banker and she would travel around the world. So most of the time the child was with me really 24 hours, and she said she could do her work properly. I think I could also say that I could do my work properly because I know I have peace of my mind, I have peace in my heart that knowing my children are also being loved of my sister. Yeah. So you can see the three women, my sister, me, and my employer.
3 women, 3 mothers, all doing what they have to do for the sake of the children they love. And it's not just happening in the Philippines or the UK. This network of care happens all over the world. It builds economies, provides for families, educates children, and despite the heartache, people feel like they've done the right thing.
We are just helping each other. So let us make a good relationship between a domestic worker and our employer. Without them, we can't do something, and without us, they can't do something.
Every nanny who leaves their family and go somewhere to take care of someone's child, they are very strong mothers because they have to hide their feeling and act like they have no feeling.
I'm proud. I made a massive sacrifice, but it was worth it. And now I'm at peace, and I'm very proud of my children.
Phoebe and Syria have more than 40 years of experience between them of doing domestic work in other countries, and they've seen how family dynamics shift over time. You're in your own family forever, but your work for other families is temporary. Remember how Syria told us that she kept every drawing done by the kids that she looks after?
When the youngest is doing the drawing, before I was always there. Yeah, the mom, the dad, the brother, her, and me. There's always there. I keep all the drawings. But now,
you're out of the drawing.
I'm out of the picture. Yeah, so there's an expiration. Wow. Yeah, I realized that because I asked her, look at this, I am here. And why now I am not there? And she told me, you know, you are not a family. You're only a nanny. So, you know, it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. But it's true. So that's why if I will give an advice maybe to the first-time nannies, they must also give boundaries to the heart. It will protect you from being hurt.
So my friend said her daughter told her that I'm not gonna leave my children. I'm not like you that you leave us in the Philippines and you worked here. So I mean, is it a bad decision to go abroad and work for your kids? It's hard to be a good mother. You don't know what is a good mother, how to become a good mother, you know, because your children sometimes won't understand that you did that for them.
You've been listening to Other People's Children, a documentary for the BBC World Service, presented by me, Namulanta Kombo, and produced by Lucy Burns.